then from there we will go on and share what we're going to do in Brazil, and then I'll share a quick message, and then if we have time, we'll maybe open up for questions on what we're, for anyone else that might have them. So I guess you can go ahead and start off. Yeah.
In a country like Brazil, the fellowship is huge, mostly because in a small church, a lot of the members are the only believers in their family, and so the church family becomes their family. So fellowship is a big thing, plus Brazilians like to socialize a lot. So one of the biggest things we did was fellowship with believers, and that was pretty much every single night. There were people at our house, either playing games, discussing theology, just talking, and that was the biggest things we did. Another big thing we did was a youth group, and youth group there is different than here. It's not just for teenagers, it's for anyone who wants to go. You can be married, you can be older, you can be a kid, just about anyone who wants to be involved in youth group is there, and they have a fun time either just in the Word, singing songs, or playing games afterwards. So that was another thing we did.
We were also able to visit unbelievers as well. Anna was able to visit one guy named Joik who had a pretty bad motorcycle accident. And a lot of these people Anna grew up with as kids and friends, and there are still people that her parents are trying to minister to. One guy named Willemi came to one of our services while I was sharing my testimony, and was able to hear the gospel. And I was also in contact with an English teacher who actually didn't speak very much English, but he was part of an organization called You Can English, and we're still in contact with them. And I was also able to have a tutor for Portuguese while I was there, who was also an unbeliever, but he was very close to, I think, receiving the gospel. I was also able to preach 5 times in 2 different towns. Most of it was in Morada Nova, where Anna's parents minister, and share my testimony once. And it was the first time that I was ever able to do a series. And I preached through different sections in the book of Ephesians, and I enjoyed that. And I went and typed up my sermon, and it had to be about half as long as a normal one because I was going through translators. And then Mr. Johnson would look at it and do all his and then correct it. But it was a really good learning experience, and I'm glad that I was able to do that, and then have Mr. Johnson and his wisdom and his 20 years of or more experience in missions and preaching. We also had the chance to visit Aracaju and Salvador and Maceió. We traveled, it was close to about the same distance from here to St. Louis. About a 12-hour drive down, and then more traveling in the area, and then another 12-hour drive back, all in about 5 days. And there's potholes. But it was a good trip. We were able to visit these 2 cities. Aracaju is a town of about 500,000, and as far as we know, there is not one sound biblical church there. The charismatic movement and the Assemblies of God movement and other kinds of movements are very strong in those areas, but biblically sound churches cannot be found. We also visited Salvador, which is used to be the capital of Brazil, actually, and has a very high African influence because of the slave trade that used to be there. It is a town of 3 million and has 6 Baptist works there, which are doctrinally sound and are growing, and they're hoping to plant more churches. Let's see. I was also to help in construction and camp ministry for about a week and a half. We worked on a filtration system for the pool at the camp. The water comes in very dirty, and Mr. Johnson was trying to get us so that it would at least go in clean, and it's near finished. We had a few quirks that we had to figure out, and hopefully he'll be able to finish that in the coming months. And then we were also able to do maintenance and mowing the lawn and help Mr. Johnson in that area, because he typically takes care of the camp by himself, and it's an were able to take a little bit off of his load, helping him with that.
We also were part of
Alto Santo is another church plant through the Muedo, and we were able to go and visit with the pastor there, which was good, and encourage them. They are alone, and I believe they only have one believer right now in the church work, and they've been there for a few years. So they need encouragement and prayer that God would open doors for more people to hear the gospel. We also had a baptism, which was great. I love baptisms, and 4 people in Morada Nova committed. They had accepted Christ and then committed to live for Him, and showed that in their baptism. I think baptism in Brazil means a lot more there than it does here, because it is showing publicly to even some of their family that they are following Jesus Christ. In fact, one was rebaptized because he was baptized as a kid in the charismatic movement, and it was very emotional, and it was not a real decision of faith when he quote accepted Christ, and then when he emotionally got baptized. And this time it was he had accepted Christ, and he wanted to show his dedication to Jesus Christ through baptism, and it was a pretty awesome thing to watch.
We also were part of 2 VBSs. The first one was in the town of Morada Nova, where my parents are, and that one I was coordinating, and it was really cool to watch, because usually when I help in VBSs, I do all the work. And this time I said, I'm not always going to be here. You guys need to step up. And I got to see people do their first time teaching a Bible lesson, a missionary story. And it was really cool to step back and coordinate, but watch them do all the lessons and stuff. We had it in a school, and we had handed out over 200 invitations. And a lot of things went wrong with the VBS. They told us, oh, we're going to be in session at that time. And then they had made us change the hour. And then they had games at the same time at the school, but we still had 2 kids come to know the Lord, and had about 30 kids come on a daily basis. So that was really cool. The second one was in Quixere. Oh, that's the one on the one. And then the second one was in Quixere, and that one I taught the missionary story, and Hannah did the games for. And this is a small church without a pastor. It's a church plant from the Limoeiro Bible Church, and they just needed help. So we were able to help them, and they had about 15 kids who were there, and it was really cool to be involved in their VBS.
We also had an inauguration service for the church in Morada Nova. As many of you might have heard, the church in Morada Nova was given notice that they had to move out of the building, and this was the second time that this person had told them to move out, and then they were able to move back in, and now they're being told to move out again. And so they were going to be homeless, and most places, they're not places to rent, or the land to buy and build on is too expensive. And so we were really worried about finding a place to move out, because they were told to move out by the end of July, which was right around the time that we were leaving. So it was really packed, and with our schedule and being gone. But we were able to find a building for a little bit more higher rent. It was a nicer building, has a bathroom. The other one didn't. And so that was a blessing that we were able to find this. And then we also used it as a sort of an excuse to go out and hand over 200 invitations out to different people, saying, hey, we're in a new building, come and visit us. And they had a very clear gospel message presented through 5 different people. Mr. Johnson being the last one, is not shown in this picture here. 3 of them were Brazilians, the other one was Calvin. And it was great to see the Brazilians stepping up and teaching the gospel. And then we had visitors come and hear the gospel presented clearly. So that was an awesome opportunity.
There's a program in Brazil called Priscilla School. This is a 9-year program, 1 week of each year, where they teach women how to teach Sunday school and how to teach women's Bible studies. And they also just go through courses of books of the Bible, like Revelation and several other books of the Bible. They do hermeneutics and all kinds of things like that. And this is really great for the women, because then they can learn how to do these things. And so I was able to teach Priscilla School, and I was originally going to teach Revelation class. Well, no students showed up for that, but 2 teachers weren't able to make it. So minute, I taught health class and how to be a good teacher class. It was really encouraging. We had 11 girls from the area, and they were there for the whole week, and they learned several things about the Bible. Most of them it was their first year, and we even had an 11-year-old girl who was there taking all these classes, and it was great to see. She was actually understanding the Bible and taking classes and learning how to be a Sunday school teacher, and she was 11 years old. So that was a really fun week and a good week to get to know some girls and teach them the Word of God.
Overall, I'm really glad that we were able to go this summer. We were also able to figure out legal documents. We weren't officially married in Brazil until about halfway through our trip. So we're going to have a second honeymoon. And then just overall visiting and getting to know the culture even more and language learning. I personally can't wait to go back, and I know Anna can. We appreciate all of your prayers and support as we went. So what's the future, and who are we going with, and all these other questions. Real quick, I do want to, some of you I don't know, because I've been gone for almost 6 years and been only back for probably 2 months at a time, max. So real quick, I'm going to give my testimony. Anna's going to give hers. I grew up in a family of 5. My mom and dad are Christians, and so I had a great Christian influence and example from them. I have my 2 sisters, Rachel and Hannah, who I love dearly. Around the age of 5 or 6, I accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior through my mom. She taught me the gospel in a very plain and simple manner, that I was a sinner, that I was destined to hell, and that there was nothing that I could do about it, but that Jesus Christ came and died for me. And it meant a lot to me, and I accepted Jesus Christ at breakfast, I think it was on Saturday morning. From about 5 or 6 until 13, I went to Awana, I memorized verses, I was a typical good Christian guy, and I was just kind of happy-go-lucky. And then right around 13, I started rebelling internally against God. I started living a very stale Christian life, and I looked really good on the outside, but I wasn't very good on the inside, and I had a lot of people deceived, including myself. And that went on until about the age of 18, and when I went off to Bible college. Bible college is when I started really realizing where I was and where I needed to be. And I kept having speakers coming in saying, give your life to Christ, give your life to Christ, live for Him, don't live for yourself, don't live for your own pleasures, live for God's pleasures. And I kept saying, this is my life, I will do what I want. And finally I realized that that was not the way to live, that God did want me to live for Him and not for my own self and desire. So at that point in time, I gave my life over, dedicated my life to Christ. I was saved, but I dedicated my life however He wanted to use me, I guess. And that took me in a completely different direction. I had desires growing for ministry and youth groups and pastoralship and church planting through a period of 3-4 years. And then when I went and interned in Baird, Nebraska, near the end of my internship, I met Hosanna. And we kept talking and talking, and talking led to getting married. The more you talk, the better chance of getting married. And I actually didn't know anything about Brazil. I probably didn't even know Brazil was in South America. I probably thought it was in Africa somewhere. And the geography was not my strong point. And as I got to learn more about her, I got to learn more about Brazil because it's such a huge part of it. And through Anna, and learning about Brazil, God built a desire into me to go to Brazil. And as I went last summer, I got to meet people in the culture, and as I went this summer, the desire continues to grow. And we were accepted with Brazil Gospel